Good morning. My name is Chuck Riley. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the College of Engineering and Computer Science, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's leadership lecture by Christy Woodruff of Siemens Energy. Christy Woodruff is Chief Information Officer of Siemens Energy and head of the energy sector's IT organization. Her scope of responsibilities covers the global provision of IT services for the entire energy sector. Ms. Woodruff's Siemens Westinghouse career began in 1974 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She transferred to Orlando to become part of the startup team for business applications to support the Orlando Power Generation headquarters. After various management assignments in the IT arena, she left IT to work in the service division. In the service division, Ms. Woodruff managed the order entry, pricing, order management, customer service, parts information, marketing information, and blading product line functions. Over that time, she was involved in the development of many of the processes and computer systems required to support these functions. In 1999, after Siemens' acquisition of Westinghouse Power Generation Business Unit, a new global combined service organization was formed. Service Business Process Engineering was set up to facilitate the introduction of new global business processes and systems. Ms. Woodruff managed more than 30 strategic programs to further the goals of this service organization. In 2003, Ms. Woodruff accepted the position of CIO for Siemens Power Generation. She has set up a global IT organization that is closely aligned to the business organization it supports. In 2008, after the merger of the power generation and power transmission and distribution groups to form the energy sector, her scope of responsibility was enhanced. Since then, Ms. Woodruff has headed the global IT organization of Siemens Energy with its workforce of around 1,000. Ms. Woodruff received BS and MS degrees from Auburn University. She and her husband live in Winter Springs, Florida, and have 2 grown children and 2 grandsons. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Christy Woodruff.
So good morning. It's really nice to be here. It's my 2nd year in a row, so I'm happy to be back. I guess I didn't completely fail the last time because Bob asked if I would do it again. This year's topic is a little more personal, I would say, and a little more, it's not a techie topic, so we'll see how this goes. The topic of work-life balance is more of a personal topic than anything else, and we each have to deal with this in our own way. So I'll try to give you a little bit of insight into how corporations deal with work-life balance, and maybe a few hints on how I've managed to survive this long in the crazy life that I live. So I'll give you a few insights there, I hope. But first, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about Siemens. You know, we're right across the street, at least part of us are. The street across the building and facilities across the street are let's say the U.S. headquarters for power generation. It's the old Westinghouse facility that for the last 10 years or so has been merged with Siemens, but our roots for that headquarters are here. So a lot of the work that goes on over there is sort of the U.S.-based power generation, engineering, marketing, and those kinds of activities. But let me tell you a little bit about Siemens. It's a big company. It's a global company. We are in 190 countries around the world. The company is 170 years old, so very rooted in technology and R&D, in science, and our core is really the engineering sciences, let's say. All of the products are high tech, let's say. We are not into consumer goods or into the sort of the end user product type environment. We're building the big, bad, highly complex technical stuff. So when you think about Siemens, you should think about very sophisticated healthcare equipment that is making advances in the medical sciences. You should think about power generation, all of the various complex technologies that power the world. And you should think about industrial automation, very sophisticated manufacturing enabling technologies, for example. So that is Siemens. We're literally all over the world. We have a very strong presence in the U.S., and we have a very strong presence in all of the emerging countries as well. So this gives you a little bit of the demographics. You know, we're more or less 400,000 employees worldwide, about 80 billion in revenue. So, you know, relatively large scale. In the U.S., you may have seen, I hope you've seen some of our new ads. Siemens is very much a part of the framework of the U.S. If you take power generation, for example, a huge preponderance of the power generation that we all enjoy is based on Siemens technology. When you combine the base that is the Siemens technology as well as the former Westinghouse technology, you're really covering a huge portion of the base of how electrical generation gets done in this country. So it makes you proud to know that you are part of something that is that vital to everyday life. As well as the power generation topic, if you look at things like industrial automation that I spoke of, the Postal Service is using our sophisticated automation. So when you look at the mail that somehow quietly comes into your mailbox every day, 90% of that distribution of mail is coming through devices that are engineered and manufactured by Siemens. And that's just one example. There are all kinds of great, interesting innovations in automation that Siemens is a part of, from modeling techniques, simulation, to productivity tools that really are kind of let's say, the basis underlying a lot of the factory automation that goes on around the world. The other thing that makes you proud somehow is Siemens' engagement in the whole healthcare topic. And Siemens really takes healthcare from, let's say, womb to tomb, and they're looking at preventative techniques, they're looking at diagnosis, and they're looking at treatment. So let's say the full disease life cycle, if you will, and there are devices that are enabling physicians every step of the way in that regard. I'm proud to work for Siemens, and I think we are really making a contribution to the world, and that gives you a good feeling when you go home at night. We do this all through 3 sectors. I'm part of the energy sector, so our claim to fame is the design and implementation of all types of power generation, from renewables to gas to steam to the non-threatening part of nuclear. So we build the turbines and the generators for nuclear power. We don't do the hot end, so to speak, but we do the generation end. So any type of generation we are involved in. Additionally, we are also involved in the transmission and distribution of electricity. So these are the mechanisms that are provisioning electrical power from the point of generation to the point of consumption. So those types of technologies we're also involved in. The healthcare organization is working on both the clinical, the diagnostic areas, and in solutioning. So they are selling all kinds of tomography and radiological type equipment into hospitals, for example, as well as systems. They also have very sophisticated patient care systems that they are developing and providing to hospitals and physicians. Industry, we've sort of talked around that they are making various devices and various, let's say, product lifecycle management tools to assist others with their product development, let's say. So, and did I say 3 sectors? I meant 4. we've just introduced October 1st a fourth sector called infrastructure and cities. This sector, frankly, is a cannibalization of the former three, but the intention of this was to bring together sort of let's say more of a customer or market-driven view of what technologies are interesting for the megacities. When I was here last year, if any of you were here, one of the megatrends that that affects Siemens business very, very much are the growth of the megacities. So we have designed this sector to basically sell into the market of cities and to assist them with the conceptual work, the design and planning of what it takes to run a big city. So you're talking all kinds of infrastructure. You're talking transportation. You're talking buildings. You're talking about smart distribution of power. You're talking about how to join, from a technological standpoint, how do you join the grid, so this so-called smart grid notion. How do you introduce electric cars, high-speed trains, various modes of transportation, various modes of electrification, and all bring that together into one big network. What does that look like city by city? So this is a brand new kind of twist for us to see how we can work with the city managers around the world in the very large cities to see how we can enable them for the future. So that's kind of Siemens. And again, I'm part of the energy sector. I run IT for that sector. This basically includes kind of everything that smells like IT, what you would expect it to look like. So everything from working with our customers on what their requirements are, what their demands are, what their strategic direction is. Are they going to buy a new factory in Brazil? Having a good connection into our customers so we can help them anticipate what their needs will be for the future. And then having done that, then deliver whatever solution we've agreed is the appropriate one. So we have around 1,000 people around the world. We have probably an equal number of consultants that we work with to help us with some of these more complex projects. And everything from very large, $100 million projects down to just the basic blocking and tackling, making sure that you've got the proper infrastructure in a new location that is being built. So, there's never a lack of things to do. There's never a lack of escalations on my desk or issues to solve. So it's a very challenging job because there's always something new. I mean, as the business changes, so does IT. We follow in their footsteps, let's say, to enable whatever great ideas they have about what's next for their business. So there's always something new and something going on and changing. So moving on to work-life balance. So in a big company like this, with a position that I have, how do you sustain some type of reasonable work-life balance? And my position is a global position. So I have employees in basically, 20 countries, let's say. I try to get to each country once a year. I am 50% more or less in the States and 50% in Europe, with side trips to, small side trips to China or to India or whatever. So I'm traveling quite a bit. And the question is, how do you make that work, and how do you optimize your performance somehow? So when I think about work-life balance, the first thing that comes to my mind is what is work and what is life, because I'm not really sure anymore. You know, we all have our devices. I just got another iPhone and iPad. Now this is accompanying my laptop, which accompanies, you know, all the other devices you have, my Kindle for my, you know, so I've got all this stuff. And where does work stop and where does life begin? And it's really difficult for me because it's difficult for all of us. I'm sitting at the car wash yesterday or the day before. You're at the car wash, so I guess this is life. But you pull out your iPhone and you start doing mail, you know, so I guess that's work. And then you go through the mail and some of it's, you know, oh, Dillard's is having an SD Lauder bonus. Okay, I guess that's life. And then there's this, you know, major, you know, the factory in Budapest just went down because the network's down. And then you're like, oh, I'm back to work. So, you know, what is this work-life balance thing? And I think it's challenging to really sort it out. And I guess the conclusion I've come to is you don't need to really sort it out because it's impossible to do. The question really is, how do you prioritize and how do you make the right choices? It's all about choice and how do you have an awareness about yourself to make the right choices as you go. Because it changes literally, at least for me, it changes literally every day. I mean, every day you might have a different set of conditions that would lead you to different conclusions about how you spend your time. So for me, for example, when I'm in Germany for those 2 weeks every month, it's, you know, it's essentially all work because why not? I mean, my family's at home, my family's in Orlando, so focus really hard on work. The weekends are work, just, you know, you just keep working. But when I'm here, I have almost no regret or no guilt by letting my car leave that parking lot across the street at 5 o'clock. Almost no guilt, you know, but you almost have to force yourself to get in the car. Okay, get in the car. Because you just worked 80 hours last week while you were in Germany, so get in the car. So it's really all about choices you make in the moment, I would say, or choices you make in a very proactive way to sort of have a frame in your head about how you want to allocate your time to the various things that are important to you. All of this somehow is based on a value system that's very private and internal on what really is important to you. You spend time on those things that are important to you. I mean, I think that's sort of common sense. So if somehow you are neglecting certain areas of your life, you need to really evaluate if what's going on there. Is it really as important as you think it is? And if it is, then you need to rebalance again. So you really sort of have to have a discussion with yourself on what are the most important things in your life and what, you know, if you're doing a triage, where do you spend most of your time first? And then what do you allow to fall off the table? And if you're thinking about this in a somewhat consequent way, then hopefully you don't let any of the things that are really important to you fall off the table. In the end, you can either choose and have some type of framework in your head, or you can just default. There are only 24 hours in a day, and time will march on and life will march on. And if you do nothing, somehow there'll be a series of events that occur, and you know, they're either what you wanted them to be, or you let life do it to you. You didn't take charge of your life, you just allowed life to happen to you. And you get what you get. So I think it's a matter of assessing your values, assessing what's important, choosing to align to those values, and then prioritizing your time accordingly. So it's academically simple. I mean, this is not rocket science, but in practice, it gets a little tougher. So if you look at these things, I think they're all quite clear. You know, there's there's a balance that you need to achieve. I mean, 100% balance on either side is simply not workable. But the subtlety of what balance you choose is infinitely more complex. And how do you really take that on? You know, how ambitious are you really? I mean, everybody, especially, you know, you guys are young, you're not tired yet, you're getting, you know, you're out of school and you're going to conquer the world and you're going to have this great job. But really? Really? I mean, to what degree do you really want to make that happen? How hard are you really willing to work? Do you really want to put the time in? Do you really want to follow the mold of what your employer expects of the ideal upwardly mobile person? Do you really want that? Many people really, they may say they want it, but they don't align themselves accordingly. So most people really don't want it. So the point is you need to be realistic about what your capabilities are, what your ambition is, and how much you're really willing to sacrifice for it, and what that looks like for you. And there are lots of degrees of that, of course. On maybe a sort of a working level, you know, how much are you willing to travel? How much are you willing to be away from your family during the week? What does that look like? And this varies over time. You know, if you have young children, maybe this is different than when you have older children. Or if you have, you know, aging parents that need your support, then it may look different. So you don't always have the same answer to the same question. It's timing also is very interesting in there. So I think you sort of have to calibrate how much you're willing to put in to what you're trying to accomplish. If you look at life, I mean, there's so many choices about how you spend your time. You know, do you want to get buff, and do you want to be so healthy that everybody else looks at you and hates you? Or, I mean, is that how you want to spend your spare time? Or would you rather, do like I do, if I have 5 minutes, sit on my back porch with a glass of wine and a book and, do nothing that's too healthy, So, what does that look like for you? What is your family dynamic? Do you have small children, medium-sized children, aging parents? What does that look like, and what demands do they make on your time, and how much do you want to give to them? And sorting all this out is interesting. And then, what do you want to give to your community, to the community, to your faith, to other let's say, clubs you might want to join that are for various purposes or reasons. What does that all look like for you? So lots of choices, and no one size fits all for sure. No one person, their pattern will not in any way resemble the guy sitting next to them. In Siemens, getting back to how Siemens enables all of this, Siemens provides, and I suppose most other large corporations provide enabling services for employees to make the work-life balance more comfortable, let's say. So a lot of things that are provided that you can take advantage of, and you should take advantage of if it applies to your situation. So in terms of the family, Siemens offers scholarships to worthy children of employees. They help with elder care, for example. If you have aging parents that need attention, there are programs where they can get assistance. Financial planning services. I take advantage of Siemens financial planning services, and I can tell you, I remember the day, December 2008, when I made a call. I was sitting out in the cold because it was a little bit of a private moment. I made a call back to my financial planner in Atlanta, and said, help. You know, the stock market was in the tank and things were getting really ugly and certain things were going on with my financial stuff, and it was wonderful to have someone you could pick up the phone and say, okay, I need to bounce some things off of you. Let's talk about this. So there are all kinds of situations that your employer can help you through if needed. Adoption. They provide assistance with those types of topics. And of course, they have a lot of social things. There are a lot of things going on that kind of help to make your family members feel more a part of your work so that it's not this complete dichotomy. So picnics or charity events where the family joins in, or, you know, walk for breast cancer, or, you know, all of those types of things are helpful to kind of bring that integration between your private life and your family life together. And of course, Siemens offers lots of opportunity for personal development, more in the vein of how to enhance your career, how to gain deeper and varied skills. So a lot of opportunities for training, for rotational assignments, for mentoring opportunities. These types of things are all part of what Siemens provides. Within IT, we have a global mentoring program where we take all of our, many of our high potential guys and partner them with a senior mentor. This has proven to be a very successful program. I think both mentor and mentee appreciate this and both benefit from this. And it's just one of the things that helps to give a new, young, upcoming person an opportunity to bounce ideas off of a more seasoned and senior person. And then seminars on work-life balance, on stress reduction, on those types of things are also always offered and helpful. Of course, Siemens has its complement of healthcare benefits, as everyone does, wellness programs. I think Siemens also has really finally kind of waked up to helping employees to be more flexible in when and if and how they come to work. So for Siemens, we have this new thing called the Siemens office concept. The Siemens office concept is actually pretty cool. I mean, it basically says we have a nice, bright, attractive workplace. No one has a desk that is personally theirs, so it's intended to be a sort of a transient environment. Everyone has some type of a kind of a file box where they can keep some personal things, but you basically just come in, grab a desk, grab your box, and work. And so it's very good for organizations where you have a lot of travelers, where you have a lot of people that work from home and want to work occasionally coming into the office. And there are many meeting spaces and gathering spaces that are sort of non-traditional. So, you know, a coffee spot, things like I think are probably normal in the university environment. There's a lot of that kind of atmosphere just in the paths I walked through. But in a place like Siemens, this is not normal, where you had very closed offices for one thing, and very, you know, regimented times and ways to do work. So much more open now, much more willingness to allow people to work from home. In my situation, again, this whole what's work, what's life thing, and with me traveling so much, I really optimize around the time, not the place. So, for example, if I have a doctor's appointment at 10, and I have conference calls from 8 to 10, why get in the car, drive to the office, and then drive back to the doctor's appointment? And you know, I literally do the math, you know, okay, I would save 30 minutes if I just work from home, right? So I think this is now accepted. It's not as though people think, oh, she's she's not working. I mean, people, it's more normal now that you're basically anywhere, anytime. And especially with the way we work on a global basis, virtually any conference call you're in, not everyone is in the room. Someone is somewhere else, either in their own office or at home or at the airport or whatever. So the where of how you work is really not so important, especially in these days of global communications and all the tools that we have to have meetings electronically. So it's really changed the way we work, I think, to a great degree. Also, across the street, we have a number of resource groups, as they're called, that are geared to a specific segment of the workforce to help give them, let's say, an affinity group of people with like-mindedness that they can work with, ping ideas off and further their ability to cope with whatever. So we have, for example, a women's resource group. So they focus on women topics. How do women exceed in a Siemens that's basically a man's world? What are the tips and tricks? How do they cope? What is your, how do you confront a real arrogant, engineering manager that thinks he knows everything and really thinks you're some, woman? How do you confront that? So these types of groups do exist. We have them for women, for our black colleagues. We have them for our retirees or sort of soon-to-be retirees. How do you transition into retirement, and how do you give back? We have a great retiree program where the retirees are coming back into the workforce in an unpaid fashion. I think it's unpaid, where they're mentoring young people in various skills. So they're giving back from their experience and from having been around the block a few times. There's a Hispanic group, and then there's a newcomers group, so to speak. So I think these are all helpful to help with a spirit of inclusiveness, that people feel a part of the community, that they feel a part of Siemens, and they're having people that are sort of assisting them on that journey. So Siemens provides a lot in terms of helping with work-life balance. But in the end, it's about what do you do with all this, and how do you bring this back to your personal situation? So I think everybody's different, and everybody's hooked together different, and there's no magic solution here. I'm an industrial engineer by my scholastic background, and by, I think, just the way I tick. That's just the way I operate. So I'm always the one, on the Hawaiian vacation with the map and the book and the tickets. That's me. My husband is driving and complaining that I've got the map and the tickets and the book, and refusing to plan anything. So I'm like, okay, this boat trip leaves at 9 tomorrow. If we want to go on the boat trip tomorrow, they say you need to buy the tickets the night before. So I'm that person. And I think, I don't know if it's, what's the chicken and what's the egg, but I don't remember, sorry, but a whole lot about the content of my industrial engineering training. But what did stick with me, there's a few principles, and what sticks with me was the notion of efficiency, and the notion of doing things in the most optimum way possible. Packing precisely as much as you can into that box is somehow important. And the whole notion of queuing theory and how to most efficiently deal with going from point A to point B is something that's just an innate part of who I am somehow. So, you know, I'm in the kitchen, I've got a pile of stuff. Maybe everybody does this, but I know my husband doesn't do it. He's my basic point of reference. So, but you know, you got a pile of stuff in the kitchen that all needs to be distributed. You know, you've got some stuff for the bedroom, you got stuff that needs to go up to the office, whatever. So, you know, automatically you're thinking, I get all the bedroom stuff together. In fact, I get all the stuff that goes to the left side of the bedroom, and I gather that in my arms. I do that, and then if there's anything that needs to be done on the way, you know. So you're optimizing your work, your personal body flow, right? I just do that. Do you do that? How many people do that? Oh, it's not even, it's half. Okay, so, but you're engineers too, so this is a slanted group anyway. But okay, so that's what I do, right? And I'm not sure why I'm even telling you this story, but anyway. So but the point is, the way I manage my life is very much like this. I mean, I very much think about it a lot, plan it, and I always sort of have at least a vision of how my time is going to be spent over the next week or so. And let's say in advance of that, I have some type of concept about what's important and what's not. So if I take my life today is basically consumed by two things: work and my really crazy travel schedule, and family, because there's really not much time on the life side for much of anything else right now. So if I take the work side, the goal is this sort of mental plan that I have. I used to write it down. I'm not that bad anymore, but my mental plan is, while I'm on the plane to Germany, in Germany, coming back on the plane from Germany, that time is work. I mean, there's nothing in it there's nothing in it except maybe an occasional dinner with a friend or something over there that in any way is working on the other side of the balance. So I have actually a calendar balance, let's say. So while I'm there, I work. So get up, get dressed, walk to work. Oh, there's a little bit of health. I walk to work, work all day, 8 o'clock, eat something, go to bed, start over. That's that time. And the weekend, same thing. It's the only difference is I get up, sit in my bathrobe, drink coffee, and work, and I don't have to walk into work, but work on the weekends. So I figure I've sort of done my, I've done my overload there. And when I get on that plane, I finish off to come home, finish off everything that I can, that's urgent, and then make a mental shift. Okay, I'm home now. I still work, but it's funny how working 8 hours a day feels really strange, when I'm here in Orlando, because it seems, you really do think, wow, it seems strange to leave at 4:30 or 5 o'clock. It feels funny. But that's that part of the balance. And then when I'm here, I spend time with the family, and this has gotten considerably more complicated of late because my parents have recently moved to town. I have aging parents. My father had a stroke last year, so we've convinced them to move to Orlando. So now my parents live here. Dad still has issues with all of that, though he lives at home. But mother needs support because she's living with a stroke victim, so we have to get her out and take her to lunch and, calm her down and all that. So that whole dimension is now a new thing on top. The other thing that really has had, I'd say, the even more marked influence on my time is that my daughter and her husband gave birth to my grandchildren, 2 twin boys, and they are now 2, and the most perfect and beautiful children that were ever brought into the world. And there's 2 of them. Did I mean there's 2 of them? So they're 2, age 2, and you literally, when you're with them, that is all you do. There's nothing else going on. There's no other little balancing act. That's it, because they're everywhere. They're into everything, right? So they take a tremendous amount of time, and we love to babysit. We beg to babysit, and we keep them quite frequently. We have slumber parties, so this is also quite time-consuming. So, and then, you know, there's my children, that, you know, the parents of the children, they get a little attention occasionally, but mostly we just pay attention to their kids. But I have a son, you know, he needs his time, you know, so I have to consciously say, okay, should we take him out to dinner tonight, you know, because I haven't seen him in 4 or 5 days, you know. So, and my husband, see, so he kind of is needy and feels like maybe, you know, I should give him a piece, but this is that sequence was kind of, you know, except I might even, yeah, that sequence is kind of the way it's going. So my poor husband, he's like, you know, are you ever going to spend any time with me? Well, sure. Right after we take the grandbabies home, and yeah. So there's a lot of people in my life, and they're all very important. And you know, it really is sort of a constant internal discussion on how you split your time. You know, I'm actually, after I'm done here, I actually don't have any meetings this afternoon, and I've really been thinking, what, you know, okay, who should I call my parents and see if, you know, I just drop by, or should I go home and pay the bills, or, you know. So every moment is kind of, you know, needs to be filled. So pretty complicated stuff. So beyond the family, the rest of the stuff begins to fall off the table. I mean, my husband and I actually made a conscious decision last month. Hasn't happened yet, but you know, we're going to try to re-establish some semblance of a tiny social life, tiny one, you know, like go out to dinner with friends every 2 months, you know, something like that. Because that has been one of the fallouts of this, of having all these family obligations. So, you know, that. I used to play golf before the babies came along, so haven't played golf in probably a year and a half. And between the babies and my back doing its natural degeneration, I don't know if that's really maybe I should change my picture, but those are the things that kind of fall off the table. So I wouldn't call myself a poster child for having found this perfect blend. I wouldn't claim that for a second. But I think all that what I can offer you is that it needs to be something that you consciously think about. I mean, I guess that's the bottom line of what I wanted to communicate, because you have choices. You can be proactive about how you choose to spend your time, and that time is very much based on what you value and how you want your time to be spent. So thinking about that and having that as sort of something floating around in the back of your head, I think is really the key thing. Because if you just let life drift along, it will do so, and you may have regrets about how you've spent your time, how you've not chosen to spend your time, and that's not. I don't think that's the way you want it to be. So I think it's just a question of keeping that as something that you focus on, and don't just let it to chance. So I think that's sort of what I wanted to say. And hopefully you guys have a whole lot of questions, because, yeah.
What would you classify as the most important qualities of a good leader?
I think I would say know what you want at a certain conceptual level, and then articulate it very clearly and consistently, and repeatedly, and continue to align everything you say and everything you do to that kind of orientation, so that eventually people really get that you're serious about X, and that you're serious about the implementation of it all the way down through the organization. I mean, I'm a strong believer in aligned objectives. Having a vision, having a set of goals for the organization, and then aligning everyone so that they're all working toward that same end. In my organization, even though it's global, even though there are many managers involved around the world, they all have one set of objectives. I do not have any patience for or allow, let's say, any infighting between different parts of my organization because they're trying to optimize their situation over the other guy's situation. I have no patience for that because we're all headed to the same goal. So if this guy is hurt as a result of you not supporting him, you're hurt too because you're measured in the same way that this guy is. So I think it's really about alignment from the vision all the way through the execution, and just being rigorous about being consistent with that and being sure everybody knows where you stand, and giving feedback when people are deviating from that. Because frankly, I mean, you know, I don't even know what I am anymore. I'm not an IT person. I've been out of service so much that I'm not really a service person anymore. I'm just some kind of a leader. I mean, good or bad. I mean, I just try to orchestrate things because I don't provide any of the content, none. I can create almost no value in terms of the technical detail. All I can do is ask a bunch of dumb questions, and ask questions that are somehow aligned to what I think is the right way, but then also take plenty of feedback if people disagree with me. I mean, I think this is the other quality of a good leader, is that you're able to accept feedback and suggestions from other people, and that you're creating sort of a sense of collaboration. So. Yeah.
Sure, over here.
Yeah.
With a number of responsibilities that you have, do you ever get a chance to really like retreat away from all that technology and just be out of communication for maybe a week at a time?
No. I mean, we do actually with my staff, once a year, we go away for, let's say, 3 days, and we do some reassessing. And it varies from year to year. Some year it's more sort of pure team building or getting to know how to work better together. Some years it's more operational. Like last year, the theme was to take a look at our organization and to assess whether we were fit for the future. So we took a few days and went off to Canterbury and delved fairly deeply into several parts of our organization to determine if they were correct for the future. So we do that, but I would say it's rare. It's once a year for a few days. And I'd say, you know, more of that would be probably helpful. In fact, Bob helped us with one of those retreats that we had, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. That UCF helped us put together the program for that time. But the last couple of years, we've taken it to a more, let's say, practical level in terms of some large area that we wanted to explore and just could spend some quality time. Now, yeah, in fairness to myself, I have another one that I can get another point for. The other thing we do is that obviously I have a staff meeting once a month with my staff. Every other meeting is a conference call, and we all stay wherever we are in the globe. And every other is face-to-face. So the 10 of us will come together, and basically within that 1.5 day period, we usually allocate a half day or even a full day to some overarching strategic topic that, you know, in the normal course of work you just don't get to. But if we have a topic like that, we put it on that agenda, and we focus on that for, let's say, a day. So it doesn't quite meet your criteria of go off and, you know, commune with nature for a week and get all these brilliant ideas, but we try to the extent that this is doable in our world, let's say.
An observation that I've made is we've listened to the leaders that have come in over the last year and a half and spoken to our students. It seems like these people that have obviously been very successful, that they have found a work-life balance in their lives. And I'm wondering if you would maybe agree with me that finding that balance actually makes someone sharper at work.
Oh, for sure. I mean, in the end, you have to take care of yourself to be effective in the working environment. So if you're really abusing yourself from a work standpoint, this is not good for anybody involved. It's not good for you, and it's not good for the company. So achieving that balance is really really important. You often see people, even at very high levels of leadership, that are really working more than they should, more than is healthy, and you know, you question how much of what they're spending time on is really necessary. Do they have a delegation issue? Do they have just a need to work on things that are not so important? Are they fulfilled somehow by just working? You know, that they just need to fill the time? Because a well-managed organization should run better than that. You shouldn't have to work until 10 o'clock at night in order to do your normal, you know, your normal business. Of course you have crises, of course you have emergencies, and you have deadlines. But the normal course of work should be managed in a way that it runs smoothly in a reasonable amount of time with a reasonable effort, and that no one is having to work on an ongoing, perpetual basis in that regard. It's not sustainable. I mean, you eventually get sick, you eventually get burned out. You know, we have these mammoth projects that we run, these global projects. The most famous one that we have is a project called 1P. It's a harmonization of all the engineering and manufacturing processes around the world for our products division. The project started out with a budget of 60 million, let's say. Latest forecast is 135. The project's gone on for 6 years. The business has reorganized 3 times since we started. You know, we've added different factories. So, you know, the scope was just changing all along. And the point of the story is there are people that have been on that project this whole time, and I can tell you they're not healthy, they're exhausted, they're tired, and it's not fair. And those types of things should be mitigated against as much as you possibly can. So, yeah, I mean, to follow up on what Chuck is saying, you've got to find that balance if you want a sustainable model. I mean, otherwise it's, you know, in the end you crash. So I think if you're in it for the long haul, then you've got to achieve it to at least some degree or other.
Thank you very much.